Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome into my office here at Bethany. Blessed to have you with us today. Obviously, Gail, my wife, joining me. Glad to have her with today. I do point at you quite a bit, don't I?
Give me that pen.
Anyway, we are actually this week we are going to be doing the Road to Emmaus story out of the Gospel of Luke. It's one of the Resurrection Sunday stories. We know that Jesus obviously, the tomb is empty on Sunday morning. He appears to one of the women that is there at the tomb. We know that he appears to the disciples during the late afternoon, early evening at some point. Thomas is not there with them. And then that night, he actually ends up appearing to a couple of followers that are on the road to Emmaus. Everybody is now leaving Jerusalem. The Passover is over. They're heading back to their hometowns. And these two particular men are heading to Emmaus, about a 7-8 mile walk or so that they're embarking on. And all of a sudden, Jesus just appears out of nowhere to them, but they don't recognize him. They have no idea who he is. They've been followers, but they have no idea who he is.
But their mood is, I mean, they've heard the stories of the crucifixion.
Mhm.
They know how scared the disciples were,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But the disciples were scared for their lives after Jesus's crucifixion.
Right.
And I don't think there isn't a story that really focuses on that.
No,
so understanding that was a big one for me.
Yeah, I mean, actually, outside of the Gospels acknowledging that the disciples were hiding in the upper room, there really isn't anything that talks specifically about their fear. And they are, as you pointed out, they're fearful for their lives at that point in time. We do know, by the way, the night of Jesus' arrest, Peter denied knowing Jesus 3 times
to save his life
because of his fear. Right, because of his fear. So these two particular followers, they know what has happened. They know the crucifixion. They were probably present for the crucifixion. They know that the disciples have been hiding, and they have heard rumors that something happened at the tomb this morning. Even rumors extreme enough to say that Jesus had risen from the dead. And they really know not what to make of this. They're just trying to process a little bit, but they're headed home. So they're going to go home and try to process whatever has happened and kind of keep an eye out from a distance what happens next. So Jesus appears to them out of nowhere. They have no idea who he is. He starts asking questions like, why are you so down, so depressed? What are you thinking about? And they're like, really? Are you the only person that has no idea what has happened in Jerusalem these last several days? And Jesus literally, for lack of a better term, plays dumb with them and says, what? and makes them recount the entire story back to him, which I always think is an interesting moment, that they end up telling him the story of what had happened to him. And then we get this moment where Jesus starts to talk to them about the story, the gospel, the Old Testament, the New Testament, the connections.
Right.
And they're listening intently. They're quite amazed by his knowledge. They still haven't figured out who he is.
But what jumps out at me in that, and because I don't read the story that much, is that he was still a teacher.
Yeah.
He was asking them, what happened? Yeah. What's your take on it? So, we always, they used to call him Rabboni and teacher. And so even in that, even after the resurrection, he was still being the teacher.
He was.
That's kind of a cool thing for me to kind of realize. And
that's a really good point. He was asking them questions like a teacher would ask questions to set the stage, to make a point. And then, like I said, he goes through the whole thing from the Old Testament to the New Testament to the gospel to this moment. And yeah, you're right. I mean, we talked this past week about, we know what the resurrected Jesus looked like. He also continued to teach in those moments. He was the teacher, the rabbi in those moments still too. And so but it gets to be late. They ask him, why don't you stay with us? We're about to sit down, have dinner, break the bread, and then we'll leave in the morning to finish our trip. And so they do break the bread with him, and it's in the breaking of the bread that suddenly they realize who he is, because he breaks the bread and starts to talk about being, this is my body. He starts to repeat the same words that he used with the disciples in the upper room. And right away, those words, that motion of breaking the bread, they realize who he is, and he's gone. He just disappears on them. And then they go running back to Jerusalem to tell the disciples what they have experienced. It's quite the story. And there's something about the breaking of the bread, and I think this is something to just keep in mind for this weekend. We live our lives. We go about our business. We get busy. We've got this going on, that going on. Our calendars are full. We're worried about things. Maybe we're praying for somebody that we're concerned about. We've got all these things going on. The news cycle that we watch, which is very distressing. And we kind of lose sight sometimes of the story that we're living through here, right? The resurrection, new life, transfiguration. We lose sight of all of that. And yet it's in the breaking of the bread that suddenly we're brought back to our faith, to our spirituality, to that which is really important to us. And I think that happens in Holy Communion for us each week. We break the bread and suddenly somehow we're brought back.
Yeah, when I'm getting ready to go up for communion, everything stops.
Yeah.
My grocery list running in the back of my head stops. Everything that I've got going on with the rest of the day stops. And that's my time.
Yeah.
And, I kind of like it when the lines are long for communion, because it gives me a chance just to slow down and center and go, wait a minute, here I am, Lord, here I am. So,
yeah. So these will be the things we're talking about this week. The road to Emmaus, wonderful story at the end of Luke. And it is the last of the events that take place on that resurrection Easter Sunday, happening on Sunday night. So looking forward to seeing you this weekend. We are blessed. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Amen.
Amen.